Students, let's continue with the fourth prelude composed by T.S. Eliot. This fourth prelude was written several years after the other preludes. And the first stanza of this fourth prelude introduces a new male character with a soul. Just like in the third prelude, uh, the poet introduces a female character. Here in the fourth prelude, he introduces a male character and he uses Christian imagery. And Christ is imagined in the sky, blocked by the city, and in the street trod upon by pedestrians. The poem returns to the evening routines of the working class. So this is described in the first stanza, and now let's read the second stanza of this prelude. I am moved by fancies that are curled around these images and cling. The notion of some infinitely gentle, infinitely suffering thing. Wipe your hand across your mouth and laugh. The worlds revolve like ancient women gathering fuel in vacant lots. Students, here you will notice that the voice changes to the first person perspective. I am moved. Okay, this makes the observation personal. The poet becomes subjective. The word fancies is a plural form of the word fancy, which was originally a contraction of the word fantasy. So, a fancy is something one imagines. So, in this meta moment, the speaker steps back and talks about how he feels about his imagination and how his imagination reacts to the images he himself has described in the poem. The verb curls in the hair, the verb curls echoes the curls in the hair of the prostitute in Prelude third. It is describing the way a particular human imagination works. There are images around which notions cling. Images come first, but fancies embrace these images. With the phrase, some infinitely gentle, infinitely suffering thing, the speaker returns to religious illusion, and he refers to the infinite gentleness and suffering of Jesus Christ. The parallelism of repeating infinitely creates a pattern to emphasize the boundless nature of this notion. There is also an analytical mind here at work that labels this religious impulse as fancies and a notion. So, in this movement, Eliot both expresses a religious desire that he experiences as inextricably bound up in his visions of city life and intellectually distances himself from his emotion. By ending the line with thing, the speaker satisfies the ear with a rhyme for cling, but surprises by choosing a word that, along with some, is indefinite and usually describes a material object. Because how can a thing suffer, let alone infinitely? It's not possible. But here it can if personified in the it can be personified in the poetic imagination. So the poet is thinking here of Jesus Christ and his infinite suffering when he was crucified. The speaker then returns to the second person with the line, wipe your hand across your mouth and laugh. This gesture expresses embarrassment. It's a self directive, a contemptuous order uttered by the analytical intellect towards the self who was moved by religious fancies. Because wipe your hand across your mouth. This means that human beings, or we can say that man has to laugh on his own helpless condition because there is no joy and happiness in his life, and yet he has to live. In a way, we say that the show must go on. He's so busy leading a mechanical life, there is no happiness in his life, but still he has to live. So wipe your hand across your mouth and laugh. So he has to laugh on his own condition. The worlds revolve like ancient women. This is the only simile in the poem, and so it stands apart. Notice that in the third prelude, there was a line when all the world came back with the sun. So the world vanishes and returns with the sun, that is, with daylight and human perception. Then later, the conscience of the street was impatient to assume the world. Religious fancies in the human imagination were impatient to take command over the meaning of the world. But in the end, the world revolves. It moves circularly without end. Continuously it moves around. The preludes continue over and over without the advent of meaning. A Misa who would break through the meaningless cycle of life and death. He is again using religious allusions here. He's talking about Christ. And then ancient refers to the old problem of the human condition. The worlds revolve like ancient women gathering fuel in vacant lots. So, women are physical representations of the cycles of life because they give birth. The last image is a paradox because they gather substance to burn, to light the world so they can see it, keep it warm, and even cook their food. They can use the fuel. But they are getting it from an empty space in the city, those vacant lots from the first stanza. So there is nothing of real substance there. The world is a spiritual void, yet we continue to live in it. This describes a meaningless existence. The poem ends in despair, but the upwelling of a religious hope at the beginning of the last stanza will return in Eliot's later poems. If we talk about his poems, The Wasteland and The Hollow Man, he finally triumphs after he converts to Anglicanism and he writes his first fully faithful poem, Ash Wednesday, published in 1930. So, to sum up, we can say that Eliot in these preludes talks about the absurd existence of human beings, their mechanical routine or their mechanical activities, uh, which he is following every day, and there is no joy and happiness in their lives, devoid of feelings, emotions, and all spirituality. He is simply existing, he is not living, he is not enjoying his life. So these preludes are a reflection not only on city life and the ugliness of urban conditions, but also on the perceptions of the poet which centers on them. So with this, we have finished the fourth prelude uh, written by Eliot today, and tomorrow we'll continue with another aspect related to it. Thank you.